Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal. Today's September 25th. I am having to re-record today's because I found out I accidentally hit the off button. So we are just covering one of the many deaths of Dr. Lucy Hagenow. She was one of the first criminal abortionists I learned about that just got away with murder again and again and again and again. She kind of disabused me of the idea that criminalizing abortion meant that the authorities would lock up quack abortionists. You have to be just as diligent. So, at about 9 o'clock in the morning of Sunday, September 25th of 1892, a 30-year-old woman named Sophie died at Cook County Hospital in Chicago. She'd been brought there by ambulance the previous evening from Dr. Louise Hagenow's practice at 882 West Madison Street. From news coverage, that the woman died from the result of a most cruel criminal operation is fairly well established, and an inquest today will beyond question reveal the details of what has every appearance of being little less than a butchery. So, Dr. Louise Hagenow and a woman named Ellen Hagenow were arrested. Sophia's father identified them as responsible for his daughter's death. Sophie, who'd been separated from her husband for about 2 years, had been living with her sister, Mrs. White, at the time of the pregnancy and abortion. Sophie's brother-in-law, William, said, "My sister-in-law left home about 2 weeks ago. She was then complaining of being sick and in trouble. I am certain she did not go to Mrs. Hagenow and the other doctors of her own accord. There was a man in the case who must have persuaded her to submit to an operation." Now, before legalization, if a woman died from an abortion, that was homicide, and anybody involved could be prosecuted for homicide. So, if the case was pushed forward and the man was identified, he would have been in just as much trouble as Hagenow. While police were interviewing Hagenow, who also used the name Lucy Hagenow at her practice, Hagenow rushed breathless into her apartments. When she saw Dr. Hagenow's interviewer, she exclaimed, "Don't say anything!" Then she sank exhausted upon a sofa. Now, Hagenow had already been implicated in San Francisco in the abortion deaths of Louise Dirchow, Annie Dorries, Abia Richards, and Emma Depp. In San Francisco, she was operating under the name Louisa Hagenow. She moved to Chicago and began practicing as Louise Hagenow. She was implicated in the abortion death of Minnie Deering in 1891, and then 1892, Sophie. And then the same year, Emily Anderson, and then Hannah Carlson in 1896, Marie Hecht in 1899, May or Mary Putnam, I've seen both names, in 1905, Lola Madison in 1906, and Annie Horvatach in 1907. Now, Hagenow was prosecuted and sentenced to Joliet for Annie Horvatach's death. So she was out of commission for a while. After she got back out, she reopened under the name Lucy Hagenow and just went on a tear. In 1925 alone, she was responsible for the abortion deaths of Lottie Lowy, Nina Pierce, Jean Cohen, Bridget Masterson, and Elizabeth Welter, and then the following year, Mary Moorhead. Now, again, she was convicted in Mary Moorhead's death and sent to Joliet, but she appealed the conviction. But when the judge looked at the case, he thought she's one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel, told her to make her peace with God, and sent her packing. And I believe she died in 1933, but she seemed to have just rested on her laurels. She did accumulate quite a lot of wealth in those years, and I think she decided that it wasn't worth the trouble to be doing any more abortions.